Okay, see, I did press the record button, I think.
You're still freezing though. You're not even moving.
Am I moving?
No, you're not. I don't see. You're just a frozen picture.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yes, ma'am. Hmm.
You can hear me? That might be just my Wi-Fi, to be honest with you.
Okay. You come in every now and then, you'll start moving, but right now you're still picture. Am I moving?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. You might be moving ready for the TikTok. Because you know how much I love the TikToks. Oh my goodness, see, I told you you could do it. All right. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. It is Kelly Jones, KJ. I'm here with the Kevin Singleton, talking about perseverance. Well, I can call you the, right?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So here today talking about perseverance. There are so many people who are going through challenges with all the uncertainty of COVID
Yes.
and well, let's just say uncertainty of COVID. How
Hmm.
do we get forward, dream the dreams, not just coexist? And so I wanted to talk to Kevin today about this subject because he is a thriver and he has persevered in through so many situations. A little bit about Kevin. Um, he won all county for for Parsippany High School. Am I correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yep.
Uh, at the University of Arizona, he scored 116 tackles, right?
Made. Yes, I made.
116,
Yeah.
he
Hmm.
made 116 tackles for the All Pac, and he was the All Pac. He received All Pac 10 honorable mention.
Yes, ma'am. Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
He holds degrees in biology. I'm not biology. I'm sorry. He holds degrees in psychology, social work, and education, as well as a master's in education.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
And he played in the CFL, Canadian Football League, for the
Got some
Saskatchewan
Rough Riders.
Rough Riders.
Hmm.
All right, cool, cool, cool. All right, so I'm getting there.
No, that's good.
Um, but Kevin and I, we met in high school, and he still doesn't remember me right now. He's trying to play it off a little bit, but I went to the Exxon gas station, right, to get gas. I never go to Exxon. My dad did. I never told you this. My dad doesn't like Exxon. He always likes
Okay.
Shell. So I
Okay.
went. So I went to the Exxon gas station, right? And I never go to this Exxon gas station. I don't know why. And so I pull up, and there are these two guys there, and they look exactly alike. And I'm looking back and forth, and one of them actually pumps my gas because in New Jersey they pump your gas for you. And so at the end we exchanged numbers. I went back to high school the next day. I went back to school, Parsippany High School, and I was like, oh wow, I met these twins at the Exxon gas station, and they were like, who? And I was like, Chris and Kevin Singleton. Well, the women went berserk because they were like, oh my gosh, Chris and Kevin, you met them, da, 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 da. And some of the guys who were my friends, I was a basketball statistician at that time, they were like, oh, you met the twins, the twins, the twins. And I was like, oh my gosh, so I met like the twins. And
Wow.
yeah, and so that was in high school. And recently, as a life coach, I have been trying to find more ways to motivate people once again in this lull. And I saw Kevin's posts, which are, I mean, I have to tell you again, Kevin, your posts are phenomenal, your inspirational
Appreciate that.
posts.
Thank you.
And I said, let me reach out and connect with him.
Hmm.
Let me reach out and connect with him. So we started talking. So now do you remember who I am, Kevin?
I'm trying. I'm still working on it.
so
I
the
got it.
funny thing is, good.
I'm liking you more and more as you keep talking about me. So you just keep on feeding my ego, and I'm sure I would like you a lot more once we finish this interview here.
Okay. The funny thing is, there were so few African Americans at my high school.
Yes,
There were
very few.
16 out of 1,700 students, and I don't know how many there were at the Hills. I mean, the most we ever had were 16. So for Kevin not to remember me, I'm like, okay, but okay, we'll work with it. We'll work with it. We'll work with it. So
Well,
Kevin,
I got a lot of things that probably played a factor in me not remembering things. We will get into that in a little bit, but go ahead.
okay, so Kevin, talking about perseverance, right?
Hmm.
Tell me, what are some of your secrets as far as persevering on the field, off the field, and now you're coaching? I'm so sorry. And now Kevin is a successful coach he's a defensive coordinator with the MicClintock.
McClintock, yeah, McClintock High School football, yes. Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. MicClintock High School. Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about perseverance. What's your mantra? I know about the no failure, no quitting. Tell me a little bit more.
Oh, he's breaking up. Okay, what was that again?
I said, tell me a little bit about what you do to persevere through all the changes and all the transitions in life. What's your key to perseverance?
That's a big there's a lot more to that than just what it takes for me to be the person to persevere, because it's been accumulation of things over the last, I'm 54 now as of Saturday, so I've over 54
Happy
years.
birthday.
Thank you very much. Just really building an awareness of who I am, and what's important to me is to believe in yourself. And I think that's what perseverance to me is finding your mojo, finding your inner strengths to persevere, to get through things, to work through things. I've had a lot of mentors, a lot of people in a village, like I would say, that helped me to overcome a lot of things in my life. So I credit more than anything the coaches, the mentors, the people in my life, my family, who have helped me to get to that point where I can persevere through things and work through things. So I think that's the main thing. That's what I want to build on, is that you can't just do it on your own. You have to accept help from other people. You have to accept information, constructive criticism, in order to build that ability to have that perseverance in your life. That it's a hard thing to come by, and that's why we have so many people struggling in this world today, because I think the lack of problem solving, the lack of dealing with adversity, how to learn how to deal with adversity is overwhelming people. But like I said, I was very fortunate enough to get an educational background. I self-taught myself to motivate. I got a lot of from my coaches, but I really, as I came to my older years, really brought it to full circle. And my thinking is always positive. My thinking is always outside the box. My thinking is always wanting to learn more from everybody and not criticizing at the same time. Are you talking?
Nope, I'm listening.
Okay, I thought you were talking. Yeah. So that's kind of where having to deal with cancer, getting an early age of having a tough time with adversity in a situation where I was supposed to be playing football for a long time. And when to train and persevere through all of that, and then come to a hiccup in the road and come to a detour, really strengthened my ability to do that. And it didn't just happen overnight. It took a lot of inner growth, a lot of maturity, a lot of belief, a lot of support from other people, like I said before. And so that's where I think perseverance has evolved in me. And that's why it's an important topic for me to talk about. Go ahead.
Wow. So you mentioned overcoming cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, we're from Parsippany, from the same hometown. And I just remember your junior year when you received the diagnosis or you received the information. I remember the town really and truly being on your behalf, whether or not you know this, in Parsippany, that everything would go well. We were very, very happy to hear about the fact that your brother was a perfect bone marrow match, but you had a lot of people really concerned about you and wanting the best for you. And I know that the prognosis was not that great. So what happened? I mean, how did it all happen?
It's like it's fresh in my mind. It's just like it was like the other day. And I think I like it that way because it humbles me, it keeps me grounded. It was back in July of '89. My going to be a senior in college, and on top of the world. I had a great junior year playing. Like you said, I was all Pac-10 honorable mention. I had 118 tackles. I led the conference in tackles. It was incredible. I saw a lot of positive feedback from a lot of NFL coaches. I saw a lot of things that were going to look like my future was bright. And it's in July, but it was 4th of July, right around there, and I was out and about, and it was hot day. It's about 110 degrees, but I had headaches. I was getting headaches during that week or two before that. So it was definitely something that was materializing, but I was kind of ignoring it because as an athlete and as a guy who's trained so hard, you're trained to work through adversity. You're trained to work through pain. You're trained to focus it out and keep continuing forward. But it started to take control of me. It started to take over. The headaches got stronger. The fever started coming in effect. I finally went to my team doctor. He decided to send me over to get some treatment from the health center, run some blood work, and kind of long story short, they came back with some blood work and said that my blood counts were very low, and that they suspect something, and that it might be something like leukemia. And of course, I'm like, yeah, come on, doc, you're just a team doctor. I don't think you know what you're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and go home and think this thing over. Well, I wasn't home 10 minutes, and the fever just went up that immediately. I started getting some pain from my underneath my arm that caused an infection. Then things just went south completely. I ended up going to emergency. And after that, I passed out. The next thing you know, I'm in the hospital, intensive care, with a 105 plus fever, and pretty much on deathbed. But I had, like I said, I had a village behind me. And at that time didn't know this, but I had my athletic director at the time was Cedric Dempsey, who's a 5-time Hodgkin's cancer survivor, 4 times at that time. And Dick told me, they contacted Dick, told me he was in Hawaii. He flew back. Cedric came into town. My brother came back to town. My mom was in Omaha. She came back into town. And they just rallied around me and got me out of that hospital and got me into the Research Cancer Center, University of Arizona. And if that hadn't taken place, there might have been a whole different story for me. But still not knowing what was going on with me, I had no clue what leukemia was. They decided to do some bone marrow taps, which people don't realize is a grueling test where they have to drill into your pelvic bone 6 times to take out bone marrow. So they're like jumping on my back and drilling these long needles into my pelvic bone to pull out the bone marrow so they can test it to see what's going on. And so that was probably one of the most painful things I had to go through as far as physically.
What are you doing? What's going on mentally? Like while all this is going on, what are you thinking? Are you thinking,
Kelly, I was in so much pain I didn't really
better so I can play? You're thinking like just want to live.
I'm losing you. I was kind of delusional. I think you were asking me how my mindset, what am I thinking? I'm thinking, what's going on? Why is this happening to me? Why I'm in pain and what's going on? I'm just kind of in a fog. I still look back and I can see like I was looking in at myself and I was laying on the bed. Like, what's wrong with you, man? Get up, let's go. So it's all like a fog to me at that time. And they really didn't give me the meds. So I was in a lot of pain. So I was really just focused on how am I going to stop this pain from the fever and everything else. They finally got me on a morphine drip when I got to the cancer center, and finally got me where I could actually communicate and say, hey, help me, what's going on? So finally, a couple of days, they got back the test, and they told me I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is a blood cancer, which is basically just travels through your blood and suffocates you and makes you, it depletes your white blood cells, your red blood cells, and it kind of just flushes it out and the cancer cells take over. And so that's where the bone marrow transplant comes into play. But a lot of people don't know that my scenario was all experimental. My chemo was experimental. My radiation was experimental. This is 1989, where bone marrow transplants weren't even thought about. It's just an experimental process. So the odds of me surviving was probably, before the transplant, was probably 20% to 40%. But with the transplant, bone marrow transplant, I was probably going to be more of a 80 to 90% survival rate. Especially having an identical twin brother who has the same DNA genetics as me. So, we did some chemo.
You're very lucky.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am very lucky, very fortunate.
I was going to say, you're very lucky to be in an aggressive place.
Yes.
Where they were forward thinking and willing to try something that had not been tried before,
Right. Right place at the right time. Yeah.
You need that. You need that.
Yes, you do. Had great doctors, Dr. Robert Rifkin, who's spearheaded the whole procedure, and he's actually got his own practice, I think, in Denver now or something. But he was the one that looked up the research to find out about the bone marrow transplant, and I said, let's do it. We got to do it. And my brother was on board at the time, and he was about to be drafted by the New England Patriots. When he got drafted, he was in the draft in a 1989-90 draft, and he got picked up by the Patriots in the first round, 8th pick or 7th pick overall. Very high in the draft, and I was supposed to be right there next to him. So you can imagine how I'm feeling at that time, where and really just more concerned about football than anything else, and how naive I was, because I'm dying, but I'm more worried about getting back to the football field. And so I think that.
But maybe that was a good thing, because
Yes, it was.
you were
I'm sure.
focused
As I
on
look back,
football. You
you're
weren't
right.
focused on.
Right. You're right. Exactly. And like I said, I was.
Because I think sometimes we give up because we don't have that positive,
Yes.
those positive thoughts, those
Very true.
dreams, those visions,
Very true.
that purpose of what we can be and where we can be. And
Very
we're
true.
so busy just trying to fit in, or trying to get back to normal, and getting.
We had a pretty bad connection.
So you're in your head thinking about. So you're in your head and you're thinking about the NFL and how you wish that you
You're breaking up bad, Kelly. I can't hear
were
you.
there.
Yeah.
And you're starting to think about how you can train to get there, or how you can get out of this hospital room to get there. What are you thinking?
I'm not hearing you, Kelly. I can see you move, your lips move, but I'm not hearing anything.
Are you thinking about the immediate response? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear you, but it's really static.
You're not hearing me? I hear you.
I know. But I heard the part about my mindset, where my mindset was, as far as being in the bed at home.
Let me see if we do this.
From Kelly's Jones to everyone, you keep talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, my mental thoughts, or my processing as I'm laying in that bed, I'm just kind of trying to figure out, when am I going to get back on that football field?
You keep talking. This is about you.
That's my goal. I wanted to get back on that playing field, and I think probably that was my self-motivation, not knowing that at that age, that was my motivation, so that I'm going to get back in this field. I'm going to fight this, and I'm going to fight this the best way I can. And the best way I can was to educate myself, to find out what was really happening to me and how I'm going to battle through this. And that was the key right there for me at that time, to get to where I needed to be, is I educate myself. It helped a little bit, but at the same time, again, everything was experimental, and it was first time for them, first time for me. So we were all kind of exploring at the same time and learning a lot about this disease, and finding out that it is a curable disease, but you have more curable with the bone marrow transplant.
I was going to say, so when did you feel like you were getting over that hump, or when did you feel like you were making progress? Because mentally you had to be there. So now that you're mentally there, when did it physically start to?
I think the physical part is when I actually started feeling better. I was feeling better before I even had the transplant. And that's what they wanted me to get stabilized, in order to get to where I needed to be, to get the marrow put into me, so I would take right away. So I felt a light in the tunnel when they decided to do that procedure, as that was going to save my life. So I said, let's do this. What do I got to do to get there? So I had to do a 10-day chemo radiation process in order to do the bone marrow transplant. So it was 7 days. It was 7 days of chemo, 3 days of radiation. And then they detoxed me to kill me, basically put me on under and administer all this chemo and radiation. And they bring me out, and then bone marrow, a couple weeks later, a month later, and they just hang it up and hook it to the catheter, my tubes, and pump it in. And after that, I felt better. It seemed like I was like that twin power came in, and one of the twin powers activate.
Yeah.
And I felt it.
My favorite was Almighty Isis. Do you remember Almighty Isis?
Yes, I do.
Spun around. The Wonder Woman, they spun around. Yeah, I remember the spin. Yeah, okay. But Wonder Twin Power. So you got the Wonder Twin Power, and then what did you do?
I was out. I was cleared up about 41 days. I was probably the fastest recovery for a person who's going through that type of thing. And I was home. wanting to get back to working out and wanting to do everything I wanted to do. But again, I had to do slow steps and baby steps because I was wearing a mask. At that time, we had a mask on everywhere I went. And so, and plus I was 198 pounds. I lost a lot of weight. So I was definitely not where I needed to to be able to continue to play football. So I had to get back into working out. But it just didn't pan out the best way I wanted to pan out. But my mind kept telling me I'm fit and I'm ready to go. But even if I was working out, the chemo drugs in my body just wreaked havoc on my fast twitch muscles, my thought process, my connections, my nerve connections, all that stuff was just really slowed down from all the drugs that they put in my body. And I didn't really learn that until after the fact. Oh yeah, by the way, they stay in your system from 3 to 5 years. Oh wow, thanks for the update. Appreciate that. And so
Wow.
yeah,
Is there any way to get it out of your system quicker?
No.
Is there any way to push it out quicker?
No. If they would have told me that, I'm sure it still wreaks havoc on your organs, my kidneys, my liver, because it's very toxic. And so it aged my body too, my organs too as well. So I might have a 5-year, 8-year older kidneys and livers. I might possibly have that failure in those organs because of that type of stuff. But I'm relatively really healthy, so I've always really taken care of myself after the fact, and before I was already healthy. So they're basing their information off people who aren't as healthy as I was when going through that whole process. So I stayed
right,
positive.
and they're
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say, and they're not basing off somebody who in 6 months went from lifting 135 pounds.
I can't. It's just really bad, staticky.
385 I mean, that's a beast.
This is your side because I'm not.
Also, can you hear me now?
It's not a good reception.
I said they're also not basing it off of somebody who went from lifting 135 pounds.
Should we try to reconnect it? Call back?
Pounds in 6 months.
I'm not, Kelly.
That's beast move.
I'm not hearing you, Kelly. I'm not hearing you. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
It's all static.
How did you do it?
It's really bad, yeah.
I said 385 pounds in 6 months.
Who's 385 pounds?
Can you? I said that. All right. You read it?
I don't know what that means. 135, what is that? Oh, the strength, my strength training. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what that could have been a lot of exercises to do that. I've always been an avid person who worked out, so that wasn't a problem for me to get back to the strength that I needed to get back to. So, eating in any of my 4 major lifts, as younger, we started working out in high school, so we were always in phenomenal shape strength wise. So I knew what to do in order to get back to where I needed to be as far as strength, so that was a no-brainer. I had to get back into the training facilities. We had a wonderful strength coach who helped me get back to where I needed to be, and so that was never really an issue as far as how I was going to get that strength back and that power back. It's just a matter of, like I said, with the mixture of the chemo drugs and things like that, my body was just not responding like it needed to respond. So my mind was still thinking I was super strong and super fast, but my body was like, no, you're not where you need to be. But I still had that mental capacity thinking that I'm going to overcome this because I have done it before. I'm strong and I'm powerful and I'm Superman and I'm 18 and you can't stop me. But I was humbled big time, from the different places I went to Canada. I played arena football, and they told me, you're just not you're just a step behind. You're not really there all the way. You're back. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to hang this up after about 2 years of trying. And I wish I had a wealth of information about the chemo drugs and things in my system, so I could have probably reacted a little bit better at the time. I don't know, hindsight, but again, I was 18. I was going to be 21 now by this time, as far as dealing with the cancer scare or cancer survivor, of a cancer survivor. But I'm here now, and it's a different point of view. My mindset's a lot different. My maturity level is a lot different. Fortunately enough, I got into coaching football, so they got on the other side of the realm of working with young people. That's really what started motivating me even more to help these young people understand how they can overcome adversity and how they can deal with things by sharing my story and having them interact with my story in that dialogue. And some people really can take things from it and gravitate from it, and hopefully they'll learn some different tips on how I dealt with my situation in my younger days. And I still tell that story to this day. And some people are still taken back by it. They always are taken back by it because I'm so humble about it, because it was life threatening. It was a situation where I didn't know if I was going to survive, and I did. And so I look at it as the positive thing, most positive thing I've ever done in my life. But I wasn't acceptive of it for a long time. When I finally got out of that, finished it, went into a depression because I wanted to play pro football. I wanted to be a pro athlete. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. And I had to live this image of what happened to you. Well, I didn't want to tell my story. I just said, well, I tried Canada. I tried this. I tried that. I always had a roundabout story about where I was at and trying to live this image of being a superstar and being this professional athlete. And it was for a long time. I was in a lot of depression for a long time. And it's come full circle for me to realize that I lost a lot of good people in my life because I pushed away wanting to think that my image was more important than what it was being authentic Kevin Singleton. And that probably started really taking full course probably in the last 10 years, where I've actually finally accepted the fact of who I am and what I'm supposed to be at. And my story is phenomenal. I share it with anybody and everybody. And that's where I built this model of Singleton Mentality, where it's my story versus my processing of information and how I deal with things, and sharing with people how they can put the work in their own realm of thinking and their own mentality. I hope you can still hear me, because I know I'm just looking at a still picture. So if you are, great. But that's where I'm at now. I'm in a different perspective in life. I'm a see both sides type of person. Like I said, I talked about my platform, which is called Singleton Mentality. We talk about perseverance. We talk about how to self-motivate yourself. We talk about how to understand accountability, accepting who you are. These are all the things I'm trying to implement to help younger people, because I do coach high school football, and that's what I like to implement, that type of information into these young people, so they can take what they want and see how they can help them in their lives. But I'm going to stop and see where we're at as far as if you're hearing me, because I can't hear anything from you. Hopefully this is recording and get some feedback. So let me see what else. Tell me a story about one. Tell me a story about when a student got it. I don't know a story about a student that got. I'm not sure about a student got it, or they understood, or they took a message from me, or is that what you're trying to say to me? Oh, okay, yeah. When a student understood, um, I don't have to tell you a student. I can tell my own daughter, my own flesh and blood in my home, or she's had a difficult transition in her life because she's had to overcome adversity for her mother passing away. And it's been very, very tough for her to understand and to really process what's going on, which is understandable. That's a difficult situation that not even I would probably be able to really process that at 16, 17 years old, to understand why this thing happened to me or why her mother passed away. So she's had a lot of emotional things to really overcome, and not really knowing how to express herself, not really know how to say I'm hurting, not knowing how to say I'm mad, not know how to say I have anxiety, I'm scared, all these feelings come into these young people's bodies and they don't really know how to comprehend it. And so with my ability to really listen and understand, and not just, oh, I just heard a voice, listen and understand, and not try to figure it out, but to help her figure it out. I think that's what that mentality is, because I need to listen to her and say, I don't want to give the answers to her, but I want to help her process it. And it's not something that just happens overnight. You don't just learn it. But it's been 2 years since we've been doing this and trying to help her work through these things with, medication, which I don't like, things like that. So we got her off the medication so she can think clearly and process things. And she's done so well. I mean, it's been a rough ride. She's been through different high schools, trying to learn how to be around people and really accept her for who she is. And she still has her her issues and concerns. I don't think you're ever going to get over the fact that someone passed away or your mother passed away. So it's a continuous process. But she looks at me and says, "Dad, how do you handle things so well?" I said, "Sweetie, I've been through a lot. And I've had a lot of people help me, and I've listened to a lot of people. And I think that that's where you don't want to accept help because you don't want to talk about it, but you don't have to talk about it, but you can accept the help. And that's really been a key for her to really understand that."
As I said, Kevin.
There, I thought I heard you for a second. Nothing. But she's come a long way. She's doing good.
Kevin, what are some next steps? What would you like to do?
Hold on, let me see. My next step for as my personal goals. My personal goals I really want to get into a more of a motivational, inspirational, share my story type dialogue. I think I call that my Singleton Mentality. That's my platform that I want to develop. I love coaching. I love being involved with that. So that'll continue. I'd like to be a head coach. That's another personal goal, where I'm more of a leadership role and where I'm more interactive with parents and with the administration of the school and things like that. At the same time, being able to get in front of people and share my story, which will parlay into thought processing things, accountability, adversity, how to cope, how to deal, how to process it, how to ask questions about my challenges or just cancer. Because a lot of people, it's a prevalent thing right now. And right now it's just a pandemic, and people are avoiding it and not really taking full acceptance of what's happening, because it's really stressing you and you're trying to avoid it because the pressure of the TV, the social media, and we think we're not stressed by it, but you are. And so my platform is to have you have the ability really to work through that, and teach yourself how to work through that. And by giving you some kind of tools or some kind of ideas, by me just speaking to you. Okay. And that's the mentality of Singleton Mentality platform is about getting people to talk and be able to share their feelings and not judge, but to talk and listen. And that's our society. We judge before we listen. And we have to open our eyes and open our ears and get in-depth thought about it instead of responding with a question or responding with, yeah, I got a friend like that, or yeah, I got this. No, it's about really being authentic and saying and listen to what's going on. Because it took me a while to listen to my daughter because I want to go old school and back in, I've understood it. And instead of saying, no, this is a different generation. These young people have a lot more outlets to look for information and to see it, find it. And they're going to find things and say, well, Dad, you told me this, but Google said this. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? I may be a little bit off, but I know Google's probably kind of the same idea or has the same idea that I'm going towards. I might not be articulate enough to be like Google, but I'm trying to get that same message conveyed. So, like I said, my goal is to reach out to all backgrounds, all different types, whatever, and be able to communicate and share my story and share my platform as Singleton Mentality. That's my goal. You can contact me. My basic contact is my cell phone number, which is a 602-725-0433. You can text me, you can call me. I do have a Singleton Mentality email, singletonmentality@gmail.com, singletonmentality@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook.
And I just wanted to say you have a huge
You're gonna have to type it.
opportunity right now.
You gotta
I've read recently that 64%
I can't hear you. I have Instagram, ksing2084, and I have another Instagram at Singleton Mentality. Instagram at Singleton Mentality and at ksing84. And I'm on Facebook. So you just Google my name, Kevin Singleton, on Facebook, and it'll come up. So those are my contacts right now. Stats.
And so with the, I was just gonna say, Kevin, you have a huge audience, a huge opportunity right now. 54% of college athletes right now hope to play in the pros. They believe they're going to play in the pros, but in reality, only 1% of them makes it to the pros.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we're talking about young adults. Right now, they're saying that 70% of teens say that anxiety and depression are a major part or a major problem.
Yeah, I can see that. I see what you're talking about. I'm sorry if I put my head down. I'm trying to be really clear about what you're saying because I'm not here. I got bits and pieces of it, but the aspect of becoming a professional athlete and the dream and the goal or the aspiration to be in a professional level is I want to say